Halloween has grown from an ancient pagan festival to an over $10 billion a year celebration of all things spooky. Here's some of the weird, wild, and creepy history of Halloween.
Let's dig into this.
Halloween has a long and complicated history that is still argued, but most trace it back at least 2,000 years to ancient Celtic celebrations like Samhain. The celebrations mark the end of the harvest and the cycle of life for the year. Fall was a time of death, and the boundaries between the living and the dead were blurred, allowing spirits and ghosts to return to the world of the living. Bonfires, sacrifices, and ritual costumes were used to protect the living and ensure a fruitful spring.
A couple thousand years of incorporating Roman and then Christian traditions turned the fall festivals into something more recognizable to us and gave us the holiday's name. All Saints' Day, observed November 1st in recognition of the saints and those who have died in the past year, is also called All Hallows' Day, or Hallowmas, is probably the origin of Halloween.
Our modern traditions of costumes, bonfires, trick-or-treating, and even bobbing for apples can be traced back through the centuries to ancient customs. And beginning in the late 19th century, Halloween really took off as a time to embrace and celebrate everything strange and spooky.
The Irish legend of Stingy Jack goes back at least 188 years. Old Jack was known as a liar, swindler, and drunkard without a friend in the world. Late one night, he stumbled home after spending several hours at the pub as usual. Along the way, he came across an old man in need. Never a kind or helpful man, drink may have softened Jack just enough to help this man out.
As a reward for his kindness, the stranger revealed he is really an angel in disguise and granted Jack 3 wishes. By now sober enough to return to his usual ways, Jack gleefully asks that anyone who sits in his chair, takes his wood, or steals his tools be frozen in place and never move again. The angel warns Jack that he may have his wishes, but he will never be allowed into heaven.
Satan is always watching, of course, and he decides to test Jack too. Once again, Jack comes across someone in the path late at night, but this time, it isn't a kindly old man. This time, Jack knows it must be the devil come to collect his soul. He asks the devil for one last drink at the pub before he is taken to the depths of hell, and the devil agrees.
After their drink, Jack requests the devil pay the barman, since he has no money. The devil has no money either, so Jack talks him into turning himself into a coin, since he can turn back into himself and escape when no one is looking. The devil agrees and turns himself into a coin, which Jack snatches up and quickly puts into his pocket next to his crucifix, trapping the devil. Jack will only let him go after the devil agrees to spare Jack's soul for 10 years.
10 years later, Satan shows up at the agreed date and time to collect Jack's soul. Jack, saying he is starving, asks to have an apple from a nearby tree before they leave. Once again, Satan agrees. As he climbs up the tree for the apple, Jack places crucifixes around the trunk, trapping him again. Learning from their first deal, this time Jack makes the devil agree to never take his soul before letting him go.
When Jack died, his tricks came back to roost. When he showed up at the pearly gates, he was reminded of the angel's warning and told he could not enter heaven. Traveling to the gates of hell, he was told his deal with the devil meant he could not enter. Jack was doomed to wander between good and evil for eternity, with only an ember in a hollowed-out turnip to light his way. This was the first jack-o'-lantern.
From the 17th century until the 1950s, Halloween was celebrated more by adults than children. Parties were the big thing, with lots of activities centered around spooky storytelling and telling the future. Young ladies would predict who they would marry by peeling an apple into a long strip. The peel was tossed over her shoulder and would land in the shape of the first letter of her future husband's name. Scrying was a popular pastime too. By sitting or standing in front of a mirror in a darkened room with only a candle to see by, someone could supposedly see the face of their true love if they were lucky.
In a game amazingly called Blindfolds, a blindfolded person would point to one of several saucers holding items to tell their future. If they chose the saucer with a ring, they would marry within a year. Clay represented death, a coin represented wealth, and water meant a sea voyage.
A cake like barmbrack would be baked with small charms representing the future. Which charm you found in your piece of cake would represent your future.
Ever hear of duking? Apparently, bobbing for apples was once called duking in Scotland. Other apple games include trying to spear a hanging apple with a fork held between your teeth, or trying to eat an apple hanging by a string.
Dressing up in costumes may have started with pagan festivals like Samhain, when animal skins and skulls were worn to try to confuse vengeful spirits. The popularity of dressing up seems to have waxed and waned over the years, and wasn't until the 19th century that Halloween costumes as we know them, although a lot creepier in my book, became popular. Costumes were homemade and spooky paper mache masks were often involved.
So, what about trick or treating? We're not going to delve into the highly argued origins of the custom. It's way too complicated. But by the 1950s in the US, Halloween parties were giving way to community wide celebrations of Halloween, and trick or treating became the thing to do.
It wasn't only candy being given out. Nuts, fruits, and small toys were popular too. Chicken feed, that love it or hate it three-colored candy invented in the 1880s and later renamed candy corn, became a Halloween staple in the 1950s when Halloween really exploded across the country, and things like popcorn balls, apples, and home-baked treats were popular until scares in the 1970s made everything without a wrapper a no-no with parents.
Tricks, from the relatively harmless egging or soaping windows or toilet papering trees, grew into the horrifying arson and vandalism of Devil's or Mischief Night from the 1960s through the 90s, threatening to shut down the holiday. But in most areas where Halloween is observed, Halloween seems to finally be firmly entrenched as a time for kids to just dress up and enjoy some sugar-fueled fun.
Happy Halloween from all of us at DragonDen Productions,
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, here's another Dragon Den video you might like.
And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button.
And you can hit the notification bell if you'd like to know when our videos come out.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.